I've got a what they call a strike point, which is a numeric value that our data sets are aiming at, that shows Bitcoin should be about 13,800 sometime in early February of next year. So about what 6-7 months, and there we are, and that'll be basically a fivefold increase over what we're at now. This will continue the sort of rate of growth of the. Quite correct. I mean, their acknowledged goal is to steal 2% of your money every year. That's what the Federal Reserve sets up. Inflation, right. Which means we steal from you. That's their word for we steal from you. And so they want to steal from you 2% every year. The fact of the matter is that we know that global quantitative easing has never stopped. It's just shuffled from one central banking center to another so as to disguise it from the various populations. And we're at a position now where realistically, inflation, especially on food items, is reaching up into 18 and 20%. So you're going to lose a fifth of the purchasing power of your dollar just messing about with it. And at the same time as that, because of the limited supply and because of the various bottlenecks, the dollar price of other assets is going up, except for where they're controlled by the central banks. And it's my contention that the cryptos had to go first. They had to roar off first in order to upset the central banking algorithmic structure such that then silver and gold could break loose. And I suspect silver will break loose. I suspect that the rocket shot on that will be staggering, that the silver and gold people will be falling all over themselves. Now, however, bear in mind, I'm the internet's worst silver forecaster for price. Okay. Is going to be. Now, I also have data that shows that gold lags behind Bitcoin, but that by February of next year, gold will be in the $4,800 range. So that says to me that the breakdown of the suppression system is underway by that point or has occurred, and things are just starting to take off for the metal. And I expect also that there will be some level of slosh where we get people that make profits in dollar values will be over 4,800 an ounce for gold. Okay, so it's not going to happen overnight that it would double, but it'll, over that period of time, whatever it is now to February, it'll go from its current price up to about 4,800 an ounce. That's just what our data shows. Silver, we have 600 an ounce somewhere, we think, before that period of time. Okay, and then silver thereafter goes basically towards parity, which is to say that we don't get numbers for it relative to dollars. We get numbers for silver relative to ounces of gold, and that we're going to go from a ratio of whatever it is now down to 1 to 1. That you could use to judge how far silver is going to rise relative to gold's price over these next 8, 9, 10 months. At some point in February or so of next year, after we've achieved, or around the time we're achieving the $4,800 an ounce for gold, we're going to see real evidence of hyperinflation flooding out everywhere, as the last parts of the body politic and the religion of the central banks is basically giving up the last of their lifeblood over those next couple of years. So 2018 is going to be a critical year. It's going to be horrific for everybody in the Western world, insofar as our financial system, and therefore everything is going to be affected by it. All our politics, our monies, our healthcare system, our food, everything's going to be affected by how bad the monetary system, the problems of the monetary system in 2018. So basically, if you're going to try and do something, this is the year to do it, okay, 2017, because it all comes unglued this year, and it'll be your last year to get some more or less regular stuff done. And then we're going to go into this big period of chaos that will be economically driven, not financial, but economically driven. That is to say, the economy, our confidence in the dollar and our ability to trade and deal with each other at a global basis will be so shattered that we won't have any confidence in the economy, and therefore anything based on that economy, which is the current financial system. Now, the cryptocurrencies are forming their own separate economy with people trading in and doing business in the cryptocurrencies globally. And so it's rising as the dollar system is dying. So it's never going to be a situation of one day we're all doing dollars and then the next day we're all doing cryptos. It's that some people are transiting now, they'll be into cryptos as other people are still in dollars. They're getting more and more into cryptos, they're out of dollars, and other people are trailing behind them, just starting to get into it. And it'll take a long time because there's 7 billion of us. So we can expect this to go on for perhaps decades. But the big kickoff in terms of sports metaphor happens this year, such that the game is fully engaged by 2018. Same group of buttheads trying to manage your currency. And it's a question of, do you have any faith, trust, and confidence in the people at the top of the system that you're involved in? If not, then one way now to get out, to vote, so to speak, with your lack of confidence, is to get into cryptocurrencies or gold and silver. Gold and silver especially is the most undervalued asset on the planet at the moment. It's not going to return a huge amount of money to you 3 months from now. It's not going to be that kind of an asset in the future. It is money, so you're not going to be converting it to currency necessarily. You may in the future as you need to. So I don't see silver as an investment vehicle, because the idea would be that you would have to convert it back into fiat in order to profit from the investment, right? And so if the fiat is of no use to you, then you're not going to be doing any conversions that way. Sort of makes sense? Yeah. They'll take away the capital gains tax, as the states are doing, and liberate the gold and silver from the concept of it being an asset and return it back to the idea of a monetized currency. And at that point, it will circulate, but its value will be such that, it's going to be very valuable stuff indeed, and you wouldn't be able to get change for, a silver ounce in a deal somewhere. You might be able to buy a car for an ounce of silver. Who knows how valuable it's going to be, but it is heading towards parity with gold. And the parity with gold is going to be very difficult for the functioning part of the economy. That is to say, for those manufacturers and so forth that depend on silver. So you're going to still, even though we're going to have all the dollar crises and all this kind of stuff going on, yuan and the renminbi and Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, and so on, in chaos, you're still going to have people trying to make Apple iPhones in China and sell them back to us. And so there's still going to be this continuous draw and demand on silver at an industrial level that will continue on, even as the prices in fiat terms for silver are scaling up. And it's going to be very interesting by the time we get to this point next year to see how we're dealing as a species with the various conflicts for these things. So, for instance, it may be that one of the things the federal government does is to say you can spend as much damn gold as you want, no capital gains tax on it. But
no Patriot Act, no terrorist
thing,
nothing.
Correct.
Just
nothing
please.
On that. Gold is free, it's money, use it, let's get it into circulation. But if you've got an ounce of silver, you must strategically sell it to the U.S. government, and this is the price that we're going to force you to take. They may well do that, because silver is such a strategic metal now, and in the future, its strategic value might be 10 or 20 times higher than it is now because of the technologies that will be coming online in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Making butthead pronouncements that are completely stupid and wrong, and then you say to yourself, and these people are managing our money? And so at some level, you decide, oh, well, I'll take a flutter on those cryptos, Can't hurt. The dollar isn't worth anything anyway, and maybe I'll do something with these cryptos. Well, and it's actually a good thing because it's episodic. It flows. And so, because not everybody can get through that door at the same time. So the criticism, getting back to Mike Adams' article and some of these others that say, no, you can't get out of cryptos. 98% of people can't get out of cryptos if we all decided to sell. And it would be quite true. And 98% of the people couldn't get out of dollars if they tried to sell. There's not enough assets for those dollars to flow into. And that's what everybody in gold and silver was anticipating. was that at some point the confidence would fail in the paper and they would flood into gold and silver. But we have cryptos now, which we need because there's just not enough infrastructure to deliver gold and silver around to all of the people on the planet. And with 7 point some odd billion people and 4 some odd billion ounces of gold in the planet, we could only have a little portion of an ounce of gold per person if we wanted equality to start off an equal system. And it's the same with the death of the Roman Empire. The death of the Roman Empire had nothing to do with politics. It had to do with greedy buttheads at the top that started taking the denarius and putting copper into their silver coin until ultimately there was only 2% silver. And people said, to hell with this. I'm not going to go and fight those Gauls. Those Frenchmen are really fierce. I don't want to go and fight them for this crappy copper coin. You go do it. And the next thing you know, the Gauls are at the gates, and there you go. Rome's done. And so it all comes back to the buttheads in charge of the currency. Now we've eliminated buttheads. Okay, the cryptocurrencies don't require central management. They don't require buttheads in charge. And so we've gotten rid of them all. And so this is a good thing. It's a huge new creation for humanity because now we can have money without buttheads. And let's see what we can do with it. What they've actually done is they've discovered they can't buy Bitcoin. Okay, they can't buy enough gold to satisfy them, these big money players, and they also can't buy enough Bitcoin. So what they're actually buying is the access called ETH or Ethereum. Ethereum is not really a coin; it's a monetized token. It has a blockchain. That blockchain synchronizes with the Bitcoin blockchain as they're processed. But the Ethereum blockchain is a layer on top of Bitcoin. You can think of it as a carrier signal on top of the cable, and Bitcoin is your cable. So they're getting in at the Ethereum level because that's much more open, because there's much more space for them to bring in big money. Whereas if they tried to get into Bitcoin, each Bitcoin now might be worth 50, 80, 60,000. We just don't know where it would be if as the insurance companies actually tried to buy into it in order to get yield. We know that they are doing so, okay? It is possible because it's not truly anonymous. The blockchain, if you know how to do things with the blockchain and look at the numbers and follow the addresses and the public keys, you can sort of see where money is going. And then if occasionally you see a tie-in between an address and a company, you can say, oh, okay, this address belongs to this company. Therefore, all of the Bitcoins that went to that address are in essence flowing to this company. And so if you can make that connection at times, you can see that indeed there are companies that are purchasing Bitcoin. And I know of some firms that have hired individuals like myself to build in-house cold storage because they anticipate putting a lot of money into a lot of dollars into cryptocurrencies and want to do it correctly from the get-go. I don't like Steam it, and here's why. I mean, I've been on Steam. I've had an account at the Steam social media for a while. It's Steam as a social media is really good. Steam it as a coin will persist. It's going to have long legs, but it doesn't have real value because see, the thing is, there's no outside of Steam it community mining. So Steam, you're paid in Steam coins, but they say there's a way to get it converted over to Bitcoin and actually get value out of it. But I have yet to see that operate because I don't see any value going into the Steam platform to start with. So here, an analogy is this. Recently, we've had the largest layoff that's ever happened on the planet, and it came out of YouTube. And it affected more individual firms than any other layoff at any time. And it was their supposed advertiser boycott. Now with YouTube, if YouTube had a coin going, you could accept YouTube coins because they've got advertiser dollars coming in. You actually have some inflow into YouTube to get out. There's no advertising, there's no monetization, there's no inflow into Steam it, so they're creating their own Steam coins. And so far, there are people that are giving them sort of the benefit of the doubt, but they don't really hold up in terms of a prospectus as a cryptocurrency. if you wanted to bet long term, as opposed to something that's going to give you a really good quick pop, then I would go for Monero or Cloak. Okay, both of these coins offer strategic use value that is different from other coins. Both of these coins, though, you have to understand, are used by people that don't want their activities to be tracked, some of whom may be criminal. So some of these coins may be used by criminals, but it has to do with their privacy value. I happen to know that both of these coins are being looked at by very large corporations that don't want to betray strategic moves by having their funds tracked around the planet. So, for instance, one company I know, curiously doing business in Antarctica, wants to be able to send value down there that can be exchanged from there. And one of the options they're considering is cryptocurrencies as opposed to moving, digital dollars or this kind of a deal. I won't go into why. My contact with them was fleeting, so I don't have all of the particulars anyway. But so I would go with Cloak and Monero. And they're very good in terms of both of those are good in terms of their code. There's breakages all the time in cryptocurrencies in terms of the code, and they get fixed fairly rapidly, and everybody's stealing from each other. Now, Monero and Cloak have two proprietary approaches that are very good that I don't see other companies taking or other coins taking. Both of them are being developed by groups or communities. This is important. So if you look at a cryptocurrency and there's a company behind it, be very wary. If there's only an individual group and individual firm that you can't find a forum of active participating programmers and stuff in there bitching and moaning about what's going on, then it's not an active community. It has no network effect. If you go, for instance, and read in Ethereum or some of these other forums, you're going to find people that are just fiercely beating each other up about the head about various different technical components. And that's what you want to see in your cryptocurrencies, because then you know people have an emotional attachment to it, they're fighting for it, they're actively involved. So Ripple, you don't get that. You get a couple of people at the top that are fighting about Ripple versus stellar lumens or something, which is another form of Ripple. They both have the same inherent flaws. You can make money on those, but you got to be really careful and really quick. Another one you could make money on is like PrivX. PrivX is a privacy coin. It's going to pop really well because it's got a lot of shine and pizzazz at the moment on the internet, but it's not going to last because there's nothing in its technology that is inherent and protectable. So its technology for privacy will be adopted by other coins and it'll gradually fade. But for maybe the next year or so, it might be a very good value. And that's the way the cryptocurrencies world is going to be for a while. New coins popping up. Old coins dying off as they have no special use case. And so when I examine these things, I look for a special use case, I look for a network community, and I look for certain levels of emotional attachment to the coin other than at a speculative level. So you got to have a lot of people that are, oh, I'm real hot on this coin, but only because they want to cash in and make some dinero now. And those kind of coins are easy to see within our linguistics because the linguistics betray it all. And so if you find a community of people that are not talking about the cryptocurrency that way, but are bitching and moaning about, oh, well, this is causing me fits and it should be this way, and we're talking code about it and so on, then you've got people that are the mechanics of the system and will keep it running. And so you can use that as an effective judge as to which of these 750 will be around for a while. Not a bank, can't do anything to affect this. They're behind the curve. They're trying to study it because they don't grasp the idea behind it, and because they're basically very stupid. They're academics. They've never done any work in the real world. None of them could probably drive a screw or hammer a nail if you gave them all the tools and written instructions. And so their opinion of these are always going to be negative because they're basically chasing the lack of confidence in their product and their management as it flows away from them. And so they're seeing everything from the backside. My perspective of this is being on the front side of all of these because I read the white paper when it came out in 2009. And I was anticipating something along these lines as early as 2005 based on the predictive linguistics. So I knew Bitcoin was going to run. I knew it was going to hit. I also knew that this was the time of the of history, that is to say 2017, when I needed to seriously devote effort to getting the word out about the cryptocurrencies and specific ones, sort of to make up for being the world's worst silver forecaster. You know, so information, then I should get paid, get value out of it. But if you just want to save your assets, buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, stash them away on a hardware wallet or in a printed fashion, and don't worry about it. Think maybe about selling your Bitcoin if you need to, retirement funds in 2022 or something. But hang on to them, because in 2020 the halving comes. Every time that happens, Bitcoin doubles in price within the next month or so. So whatever it is in 2020, when the halving comes, say it's $60,000, well, it'll jump to $120,000 within a short period of time. And so you need only hold it for a few years in order to get that kind of gain out of it. And so it can be, Bitcoin and Ethereum can both be long-term buy and hold propositions, the way you used to hold like key stocks and bonds. Because they don't control it. Okay, they are behind the curve, and now they're starting to catch on to the fact that they're behind the curve. It's really, when you look at the linguistics involved here, you see that at the very, 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 very top of our social order, at the very top two people probably, they made a decision when cryptos came along that it was no point trying to suppress them. It was too late. That if they attempted to suppress it, all they would do would be to put more energy into it, basically, because it was not possible to suppress it the way gold and silver would be suppressed, because you don't have control of the sources. And so cryptos have run ever since. Now we're in a position where what we can think of as the people that think of themselves as the power elite, but are actually really not. Those guys are all freaking out because they realize cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and that the fiat currencies are dying. And these people never made any big study in cryptos. They responded to the lies of their own media, and Bitcoin's dead how many times now, that kind of thing. And so all of these people are very afraid, because decentralized world means they don't have power. Now, on top of that, if I were at the top, just the basic guy I am, and I saw that the world was changing, it's like, oh, fine, okay, I'd get myself a pole, I'm going to go off fishing. I don't need to do this, and no harm, no foul. But I don't have 150 years of crime and corruption to hide. Okay, I don't have to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to continually bribe people. So under those circumstances, these individuals are very frightened, because they know that the things that the people that know things about them were being bribed with dollars, and dollars don't work anymore. And in the decentralized world, these people don't have an endless source of cheap, free money. They're not sucking on the tit of privilege anymore. And so they're down there grubbing with the rest of us, and it has them frightened. I mean, the Queen of England is really, well, she's mentally ill, but I mean, the royals, her progeny, are not yet aware that 5 years from now they're going to need a job, because nobody's going to be giving them sterling. We're not even going to be using sterling. We'll be using cryptos, and cryptos will be so valuable, you're not going to give it to those buffoons that managed the last system and down into the toilet where we had to all flush it. And that's basically where we're at. The system is resetting itself without the authorities. The last time this happened was, well, it's never ever happened this way before, but the last time we had a system reset was Richard Nixon, 1972. He took us off of the nominal gold standard, and we've been on 100% fiat paper ever since. Prior to that, it was a Bretton Woods agreement. Prior to that, it was the gold standard at the end of the failing empire from the British, and the revaluation of the sterling, the pound sterling. And so each and every time in the past, it has been run by the powers at the top, the Bilderbergers and these kind of guys. Well, the Bilderbergers have no power if we're not paying attention to euros and dollars. Because here we're going to have great fortunes made. Some people that have gotten in on the ground of the cryptos are going to make absolute great fortunes, because they're very smart individuals. And this is the first time that we'll be able to say, here is a great fortune that did not arise from a great crime. This time we don't have that. And at first I thought it was an organized kind of a resistance due to somebody individually deciding now was the time to do this for particular reasons. Now I'm of the opinion that really what's going on is the fear level within the power elite. They're desperate to stop the inevitability of the boulder crushing them, and the boulder being the loss of their cover because the currencies are dying and they can't bribe people anymore. And so all the corruption is coming out. And so since they've been in charge, basically the powers that be, Republican or Democrat, have been in charge for the last 40 years, they're the most corrupt, they're the ones that have the most to hide. And so they are desperate that the system continue regardless of the personality. And so they would have the worst possible criminal involved be in charge rather than have any person from the outside be in charge. And so that's really what's going on at the moment. It's not as though there is a brain. And then pretty soon it got to the point where the progressives came to the understanding that if you were against global warming as an idea, you were not to be allowed to speak, and it was illegal, and they should shut you down forever. And so it's really one of those things, you know who rules when you know what you're not allowed to criticize, right? And so you know who's in charge and what the power structure is. Now we're watching the destruction of all of this as all their language fails under manifesting circumstance. It's awful hard to tell me that there's going to be global warming when I'm standing in a blizzard in Colorado in June. You know, you just are not going to get my attention with your bullshit anymore. And so that has reached the point where it's this whole confidence thing. We have buttheads in charge, and we're not going to listen to their bullshit anymore, especially about things like global warming. Now, true, we have climate change. We're heading into an ice age, and anybody that believes the global warmists they're not going to take the appropriate actions, and they will not survive long term because we're going to be hit hard by increasing prices especially on those things we need, food and energy, and it's going to get rough and brutal. And brutality starts 2018. So if you're going to do something to prepare, you need to do it this year. And unfortunately, this year is the year of chaos as the system comes unglued, the old system, and the new one is making itself manifesting before our eyes as we all work on it. So basically, if you're not working on it, that is to say, getting your assets out of the old dying system, you're stuck there. And if you want to stick and write out the 401k and all of that kind of thing, that's fine. And I'm quite sure that there will be people that will be willing to tax you as they go along. But that whole structure is failing under the butthead load, really. They're trying to use the language of both of the establishment and thus the authority, but also of the counterculture. That's this resistance and all this other stuff that rings hollow, and all of their cringe moments on the stuff that they put out on Twitter and things, right? It's because these people don't understand. You cannot, you don't have any integrity if you're both the slave master and pretending to be one of the slaves. None of the slaves are going to believe you. And those people that do believe you are simply the small, minor, deluded mass that follows you. And that's not enough to get you the power anymore. So the power system is changing along with the money. It all comes down to the lack of confidence. It doesn't matter where you want to look. You'll find that there's lack of confidence in the same language in our science anymore, especially about climate, in agriculture, about and health, about vaccines, and any number of things. No matter where you look, it is the lack of confidence in the established order that is showing up in the language. Therefore, things are changing now.